Hello everyone, welcome to a new chess video. Welcome to the 10 best traps to win quickly with the black pieces. A couple or 3 days ago, I don't know when I'll upload this video, I uploaded the same video but with the white pieces and you liked it a lot. You left me comments saying you wanted the same video with the black pieces. Here it is! Obviously, if you haven't seen the same video with the white pieces, I'll leave it in the description so you can enjoy both. And that way, you have 10 traps with the black pieces and 10 traps with the white pieces. Let's go for the first trap of this video, which is spectacular. Well, actually they all are, but I like this one in particular. Let's see, knight f3 and knight c6. Bishop b4, bishop b5 in the Spanish Open. You know that here we have multiple moves. The most popular is perhaps a 6, and here bishop of 4 would follow. This would be perhaps the most popular continuation of a Spanish opening. What does this trap consist of? Well, in managing to trap an opponent's piece, specifically this bishop here, notice that now we are going to enable the pin ourselves. It seems like a bad move because after the move d4, no, we'd be giving away a fairly free quote-unquote expansion in the center from white, and they're also threatening to enter through here. First, we're going to kick this bishop. Out of here, and when it leaves, what we're going to do is capture this pawn right here. Notice that after the exchanges, it comes here, it comes here. They have to capture this knight, and when they capture this knight, notice we have this move here, threatening the opponent's queen. And on the next move, we want to threaten this and capture the bishop because it will have no escape. Even so, white has a small resource here, which is to place the queen on d5, creating a double threat, a checkmate on f7, and the undefended rook. Luckily, we have this move, bishop e6, which saves us from both. We are defending the rook with the queen, and we are defending the checkmate with the bishop. If they give us this check, we'll retreat with the bishop, threaten the queen, and now when it retreats back here, this rook is already defended, so we can now trap the bishop. And we would have won a piece in the opening. Let's go for the next trap. We move on to a very well-known trap that is one of my favorites. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. We enter the Italian opening, and here we're going to propose knight d4. Notice that we are leaving the e5 pawn completely undefended. If you were the white pieces, you would have to capture this knight. The thing is, if they don't know this trick and they eat this poisoned pawn, because it really is poisoned, it's not like we're giving it away, now we have this spectacular move. Notice that we bring out our queen, and the truth is that white will think, hey, well, the threat is still the same, right? Knight takes, and I'm still threatening the queen and still threatening the rook. We had this intermediate move, queen takes pawn, threatening the rook, and white will think, well, I'll move the rook and capture theirs next. But after queen takes e4, check, white has two options. Either give up the queen for the knight, or block with the bishop. If they block with the queen, we'll take it. And if they block with the bishop, checkmate with the knight. Notice that the king is trapped by its own pieces, and this knight can't be captured because the bishop is pinned by our queen. Let's look at the next trap, which also occurs in the Spanish opening. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, Spanish opening, and here we'll play the Berlin defense. This very popular two knights defense, which is the most played against the Spanish opening. Here, the white pieces will most likely castle, and instead of capturing this pawn, which would lead into the main line, we'll play a very strange move like knight g4. What a strange move. Notice that they can kick out the knight with a tempo, and we'd already be losing a super valuable tempo. White will then think we're crazy, and here we'll play h5, giving away the knight. This trap is also very similar to the fisherman's trap. I call it the fish and rod trap. Why? Because this is the bait and this is the rod. When they take the bait, we recapture with the rod, attacking this knight that has to move right now if it doesn't want to be recaptured. And when we place the queen here, notice that checkmate is inevitable. We're threatening a checkmate here on each two and another on each one. Notice that they can try to resist with this move here, f3, but we'll close with g3, and this king can't escape anywhere. Checkmate on h1 is totally inevitable. Let's go for the next trap. Watch out for the Berlin defense because it has many traps. Let's see another one of them. Bishop b5, attacking the knight, and knight f6, Berlin defense. Now, instead of castling, for example, white can play d3, defending the pawn we just attacked. It's very, very likely they'll play one of these two. Therefore, with the Berlin defense, you have two very likely traps. Now we're going to try to get our opponent to fall into the trap by giving him this pawn. Notice that this pawn is defended by this knight, so we move the defense away, and if they take the pawn, they've fallen into the trap. Lie! Because now we have two undefended pieces that we're going to take advantage of. Besides, we have the king in the center, and with the move c6, we'll attack this bishop, which has to go wherever it wants. And now this move would come queen to a5, check. And whatever they do, we're also threatening this undefended knight. So we'd be winning a whole piece just because they took a pawn. The Berlin defense is brutal. Let's go for the next trap. The next trap occurs in the Smith-Morra gambit. I'm sure you all have that friend, that colleague, your father, or someone who plays the Smith-Morra gambit against you in the Sicilian. c5, d4, c takes d4, and here c3, reaching the typical position of the Smith-Morra gambit. There are many possible continuations here, but the trap is to accept the Smith-Morra gambit. Be careful, because while it's true we have an extra pawn, white has a brutal development advantage. Notice both bishops are ready to come out, and the knight is too, obviously. Well, we can't bring out either bishop, and we don't have any pieces developed yet. That said, we can now continue with a move like, for example, knight to c6. Here, white can continue their development with, say, bishop to c4, we'll play e6, knight to f3. Here we could follow up with, for example, queen to c7. Why? Because we want to bring out our knight without it being kicked away. Here, white could continue with the short castle. Now we're ready to come this way, and after queen to e2, notice we're going to offer up our knight here. We're setting a bait. Now, a normal move would be, for example, to play the rook to d1, taking advantage of the open file. But if it's a game where they kick the knight, which many people will do because they think this knight doesn't belong here, we have the very strong move, knight to d4. Notice that we're creating a double or even a triple threat. Right now, we're threatening the queen and this knight here, which is the defender against checkmate. Notice that if they take the knight, we'd simply deliver checkmate with the queen on the very next move. And if they decide to move the queen away, well, we'd take the knight, and when they recapture, we'd also deliver checkmate on the next move. Next trap. You have to use this trap on your greedy friend, the one who always eats everything you throw at them. For example, here, playing d4, we're going to play c5. Notice that we're already giving away a pawn on the very first move. We're down a pawn. Now we're simply going to play e6 to try and win back this pawn that we're down. Obviously, your greedy friend isn't going to let you get that pawn back, and they'll play b4. This pawn can't be recovered. White wants to keep their extra pawn. Now, we'll play a5, putting pressure on the base of the defense, and notice they can't play a move like a3 to defend, because after the exchanges, we'd take the rook for free. Therefore, instead of a3, they have to play c3. But even so, c3 is also a mistake, because after the exchanges, look at the impressive move we have. Queen to f6, and this rook is left completely defenseless, with no way to save it. If they block with the bishop, we'll take the bishop. If they block with the knight, we'll take the knight, and with a check too. In other words, this rook is completely defenseless, and we're gonna win material either way. Brutal trap. Let's go to the next one. And now, chess teacher, who do I use this trap on? Well, you're gonna use this trap against everyone who plays the London system against you. I'm sure you hate the London system because it's a very solid opening and very hard to break, but here I bring you a spectacular trap against the London system. We're gonna play the double queen's pawn. Here they'll play bishop f5, London system players, and they all want to follow up with e3. The London system is characterized by what? Because no matter what black does, the moves are always the same. Bam, bam. They're always the same. Therefore, we know a London player after bishop f5 will play e3. Anticipating this, we'll play the move a5, which at first glance doesn't seem like a problem. But of course, here after white's e3, we have the impressive move e5. Giving away a pawn they have to accept no matter what. If they take it with the pawn, we'll play here, and this bishop will be completely trapped. Notice that they can't do anything. And if they capture with the bishop, Well, first we'll play here, and when they go here or here, it doesn't matter, we'll do exactly the same thing. And this bishop, notice that on every square, it's completely trapped, and will win the bishop right at the start against London system players. Why will this trap be so very spectacular? Well, look, because the moves the white pieces will have to make will be practically forced. Therefore, it's almost certain they'll fall into the trap. I'll start with d4 and we're going to play the England gambit, which is c8. I can barely speak when we play e5. Notice that we're giving them a pawn on the very first move. Why do I tell you the moves are practically forced? Well, look, we'll attack the pawn with the knight. Well, obviously they have to defend it with the bishop or with the knight. It doesn't matter what they use because we'll attack it again with the queen and they'll have to, if they used the knight before, now the bishop, and if not, vice versa. Notice that now we'll have this spectacular queen check, and we'll also be attacking the bishop. Therefore, if they make a move like this, we'll take the bishop, or like this, we'll also take the bishop. What do they have to do? Retreat with the bishop, obviously. We're going to take this pawn here. Notice we've already recovered the bishop, and now we're attacking this rook. And we're also attacking this pawn with two pieces. Here it seems a move like bishop c3 is a wonderful move because it attacks the rook, attacks the queen, defends the rook, defends this pawn, and forces us to move the queen. But we have this spectacular move, bishop b4, which is pinning this bishop, and he can no longer take the queen. Why? Because he has the king behind it. Therefore, we're forcing him to defend this bishop, because if he doesn't defend it, bishop takes would come, and after knight takes, queen takes, and we'd be up a piece. Therefore, they would have to defend this bishop. The only way to defend it is, sorry, this is backwards, is to place the queen on d2. But here, we keep pressing and we do bishop takes. Notice that if they take with the knight, we take the rook with check, and if they take with the queen, queen c1, checkmate. Spectacular! I'm sure all of you know the elephant trap because we have a video dedicated specifically to it on the channel. But if anyone's missed it, we're gonna review it right now, live. d4, d5, c4, setting up the queen's gambit. We're not going to accept it. Instead, we'll play e6, a very solid defense. The queen's gambit declined. e6, here white will continue putting pressure on the d5 point. We're gonna keep defending. Now they'll neutralize this knight. Why? Because they'll pin it against our queen. You can see that now, after the trades, this knight couldn't take because they'd take our queen. And this is where we'll spring the trap. We're going to place our knight, knight bd7, blocking the pawn's defense. Therefore, here white will think that they've managed to win a pawn. After knight takes, they have an extra pawn here, and we can't capture the knight. Why? Because they would win our queen. The thing is that we actually can capture the knight. Why? What happens if they take our queen? Well, look, because here we have a totally incredible move, which is bishop b4 check. Notice that this king can't go anywhere, and the only defense they have is to put the queen in the middle. Now we have several options. Either take the queen now, or what I like more to mess with the opponent a bit for being greedy is to take the bishop. Practically calm taking the bishop, because I know this queen can't go anywhere because she's pinned. At most, they can take the bishop, but we'll recapture with the knight, and on top of that, we're threatening this fork. Notice that we're left with a clean extra piece. I wanted to save for the end the trap I use most in online games. Whenever I go to sleep, I play some online games, and almost every day, someone falls for this trap because it's incredible. Look, d4, we're going to play knight f6, and if they play the queen's gambit, c4, which they play against me a lot, we'll play e5. Notice that we're already giving away a pawn on the second move. And not only that, but right now we're giving away a pawn, and they're also attacking a knight. This knight's going to retreat here. Notice that they can't attack it because we would win back the pawn. Therefore, what they have to do is defend the pawn, right? We'll now continue attacking this pawn with the knight. They'll continue defending it with the bishop. First, we'll give this check with the bishop. Notice that this move seems very bad because after the trades, white's pawn structure will be disastrous. This move isn't possible either because after the trades, we'd win back the pawn. Therefore, the only way is to place the knight right here. Now we'll attack the pawn with the queen with the piece we have left, and here this pawn can no longer be defended. The only option white has is to attack a piece of higher value, such as the bishop. Well, here we're going to pretend we haven't seen it and not we're going completely crazy. We're going to capture this pawn, giving away the bishop. And now, ladies and gentlemen, checkmate with the colored pieces. Spectacular. Notice that the knight can't be taken because of the queen's pen, and this king can't go anywhere because it's walled in by its own pieces. I hope you love these traps with the black pieces, and that you put them into practice. Leave me a like and a nice comment. I respond to everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.